And here he is, Dr. Bruce Scott.
Hello there, Sonia. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Good morning. Great to see you, Bruce, everybody. Dr. Bruce Scott is obviously a psychoanalyst, author, of course, of Gulag Caledonia. Bruce has been on with us many times. And, well, I like Bruce's insight into things. He always hits me with, Bruce was the one who introduced me to the idea of menticide. Blew my mind. Suddenly made sense what these awful people have been doing to us. And I've asked Bruce to come on because I think we're all aware that there is this creeping idea that suddenly the idea of, globalism is now associated with anti-Semitism. And that troubles me because last week I was seeing popping up all over Twitter and social media, these journalists saying, if you talk about globalist, you're really anti-Semitic, and none of these people should be on TV in any way, shape or form. Bruce, what is your take on this?
Well, first, we could talk for a long time on this topic, but they're talking absolute nonsense. Actually, they're employing gaslighting. For example, the Ben Quinn wrote an article yesterday, basically kind of saying the same exact thing, but they never mention such things as Agenda 2030,
Never,
or the World Economic Forum. Now, I'll use the words of a wonderful woman called Rosa Corr, the late great Rosa Corr, who unfortunately died. This is what she says. She says, Agenda 21 was 21st century, and 2030. It's a plan to eventually control all land, water, plants, minerals, construction, means of production, food, energy, everything on the planet, law enforcement, education, and of course, information and human beings. It's all about data, data sharing, big tech, etc., etc. Now, people can research her, and they'll find a gold mine, diamond mines of information on this. It's no conspiracy theory. These people who are saying this are talking at their backside, and I think it's very serious what they're saying.
I do.
Actually, if you go to there's a Russian philosopher called Alexander Dugan. His daughter was recently assassinated, allegedly by Ukrainian special services. But he wrote a book criticizing globalism called "The Great Awakening versus the Great Reset," and in it he describes how this form of globalism that we experience from all these organizations like Agenda 2030 for the United Nations and the World Economic Forum is essentially, and he talks about it in terms of that it's anti-spiritual, it's anti-tradition, it's anti-nation, it's anti-sacred, it's anti-one's culture. In a sense, to sum it up, it is another form of colonialism.
Right.
And this colonialism is the same colonialism that these people who are criticizing people who use the term globalist. Essentially, this globalism is racist and fascist.
Right.
So they, in effect, what they are supporting is a neo-colonialism which does not respect the other. And this is where another third character comes in, which I think they should take heed of, considering the fact that he was a Lithuanian Jew whose family was killed. A lot of his family were killed in the Second World War. He's a French. Well, he went to France, but his name is Emmanuel Levinas, and he wrote about this in terms of modern society and culture, and this creeping totalization of the other through these kind of globalistic ways. This idea that very unaccountable people and organizations, if they come along in this gross totalization of the other and labeling and it is a fascism.
Yes.
And this is from a Jew. So these people who are crying like babies that they're using the term globalist are uneducated and are frankly talking at their backside.
Right. I noticed it creeping into all manner of other words as well. I sent you a little list. So cabal, apparently you can't say cabal because that is also anti-Semitic. And even some people are going so far as to say that the description North London is dog whistle anti-Semitism. This is all going too far, isn't it? Why do people latch onto the anti-Semitism notion, Bruce?
I think it's a handy little dog whistle, as you say, to frighten people, because people online, you know, don't want to. Well, they either want to be anonymous,
Right.
or they don't speak out because they're scared of some sort of consequence. I got a lovely email from an academic yesterday, basically saying how the last 2.5 years he's been unable to speak out openly about his opposition to the pandemic and all the restrictions. And he's in a department full of people who are statisticians, public health, who study public health, who study psychology, etc., who study biology, and they can't speak out. That is so we have to admit, we have to see that we're in a culture where to be free and liberal, to be at least to say I mean, for example, Alexander Dugin. These same people will say, "Oh, Alexander Dugin, the brain of Putin," you know. He's you know, every little thing they try to get you on is like to shame you into being quiet.
Right.
But we have to remember, I mean, Andy Burnham yesterday, they're all playing at it from different angles. Andy Burnham's talking about people who spread disinformation should be jailed. So I tweeted him.
Oh, did he?
I tweeted him and I said, well, Andy, you pushed dangerous disinformation regarding the pandemic for the last 2.5 years. You know, you supported this illegal menticide, fear-mongering, brainwashing stuff. So I said, I take it you're prepared to go to jail then. So is he? I mean, I've still to wait. An article in the Scotsman a while ago by a journalist saying that hundreds of NHS workers in Scotland died during the pandemic. Well, a recent Freedom of Information request came back, and it basically stated no nurses or doctors died during 2020 to 2022 from COVID. Now, this is dangerous disinformation. We have to start getting extremely active, and this is where Rosa Core comes in. She was quite pessimistic before she died, I think, but she was still hopeful. But this Agenda 2030 globalism, it you know, it's sometimes hiding a little bit in your local council, for example. It'll be like sustainable development, things like that, and in the local council meetings, things are getting passed.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. It is extremely alarming. This, just to go back to this whole, because it is a freedom of speech issue that we're dealing with here, that you're so accurately talking about, and it's alarming to hear about the man who contacted you when he's in that kind of department and can't even express himself, because these people are informing obviously public policy. So that's really, really alarming. But this whole thing about not being able to call out globalists who aren't, you know, exclusively Jewish, that's ridiculous. But obviously it plays into the trope that Jewish people rule the world. But it's ridiculous. And not being able to call out globalists is, to me, as a layperson, that we're not allowed to name our abusers, those who would do us harm. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, yeah, yes, because globalism, if you take it in the most neutral term possible, these organizations say that they're not nefarious or got an evil agenda, like Agenda 2030, the United Nations or the World Economic Forum. You can at least say that it's a political ideology for a more world where it's a more global governance, and nation states don't have as much power and are more cooperative and give away more of their freedoms, and so the electorate in these individual nation states don't have as much power, but they're giving it away, and that's a good thing for globalism. That is what is wrong with that being able to discuss the idea that this is a political ideology? So basically, they're saying you're not allowed to question this political ideology.
Right.
No, when you put it like that, fascism. That's fascism then.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And is it, just to go back on what you sort of remarked on earlier, is it that anti-Semitism has become the catch-all phrase of it's the ultimate, to be called it, really? It's worse than transphobia in 2022.
Well, yes, yeah. I think it's a handy label that they can frighten people with. They use other things like the racism thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotland, there's a big, huge critical race theory drive. So essentially, they're trying to get it into schools, for example. But essentially, it's based on the premise that if you're a white little boy and girl in Scotland, these critical race theorists and ideologues are going into schools to say, your little Johnny or Jill is essentially got some unconscious psychopathological racist bias.
Just awful.
And that in itself is well, it's racist, but it's also it's abusive. So this idea, it's a handy. It lacks analysis, the anti-Semitism trope, because it's obviously nonsense, because you look at, as I said, Emmanuel Levinas, esteemed philosopher who's dead now, but he was a Jew, and he talked about these problems that people like Dugan presently are talking about, this globalism and this totalization of people, countries, nations, etc., etc. And I mean, it's if you look at in the world of Christianity, for example, in the world, the missionaries went out for many, the last few hundred years. There was the whole critique of colonialism, that a lot of missionaries piggybacked to the back of colonialism.
Right.
But they did it. They weren't colonialists. But there's a book by Lionel Young III who wrote about this. He said basically people in Africa or South America, they got when they started putting up their own churches, they said to the people from the West, said, well, I'll tell you can go now. We've got the handle on this Christianity thing. So was that racist? No, it wasn't racist. It was them saying thank you, and we can continue, continue what we're doing. So the dog whistle of racism or anti-Semitism is unfounded, but it hides the fact that they are actually supporting a neo-colonialist, racist, and fascist system.
And obviously there is a huge danger when our ability to describe things is reduced. Obviously, if you can't actually accurately describe what a globalist is doing, i.e. sort of Rishi Sunak, or who isn't Jewish, or Sadiq Khan, who isn't Jewish, if you can't accurately describe what they are doing to us, then that allows these abuses just to continue, right?
Yeah. I think, if you get like a 5-second soundbite on BBC or Channel 4, with no analysis of what a globalist is, people, as you will see, because people, look at what the extent that people followed rules the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
They're going to just believe that this is correct, but there's no analysis in it. And if there's plenty of Jewish people out there who are critiquing globalism.
Yeah, they don't get hurt.
Are they anti-Semites too?
Right.
I mean, if people like Ben Quinn, who wrote this stupid Guardian article, if he looks up Rosa Kohr or Emmanuel Levinas or reads some of Dugan's work and other people in the West, you'll see that it's got nothing to do with being anti-Jewish. I mean, how ridiculous! I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, in fact, you could say that the globalism is essentially anti-Semitic in a sense, in that there's a kind of anti-religion, anti-culture.
Yes, I understand. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So in a sense, what they're trying to do is homogenize the whole world.
Got ya. Yeah.
They're trying to homogenize it. And if they're trying to homogenize the world, which a lot of these globalist policies are indicating that that's what they are desiring, well then, does the globalism has an anti-Semitic sort of grain to it?
Yeah.
I mean, why shouldn't we question that?
Yeah.
And they don't question it. These people who are dog whistling the anti-Semitic trope about people who use the word globalism, well, that's just frankly stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the least amongst us are leading us. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us this morning and giving some light to this, because this has really irritated me, this issue. Because I just see, oh, no, not more censorship about things that we must. And you're absolutely right. When are these people going to talk about WEF and Agenda 2030? You're absolutely right. They never do when they say these things. Spot on, everybody. Dr. Bruce Scott, always spot on. Take good care of yourself, Bruce.
You
Have
too,
a brilliant
Sonia.
weekend. Lovely to see you.
Take care.
Thank
Take care.
you.